Happy Tuesday. Oh my gosh, have we got a lot going on today on the Wise Guys, Dave McCann and Blaine Fowler. Let's just jump right into it's kind of a stressful day at Cougar Nation with the transfer portal opening and coaches moving on and coming in and anticipation of some names floating around. There's a bowl game next week, a basketball game tomorrow night.
And a basketball game Saturday.
All right, let's jump in.
Yeah, so hey, BYU's bowl invite. Let's start with that. Let's start with like good things that people can get excited about. The Cougars know who they're going to play now and where they're going to be, when it is and where. Even the time just switched on this thing. So we'll fill you in on all of those details of where, when, who, maybe even how. And fill them in on
how. Let's throw a how in there. Absolutely. Okay. Legendary receiver at BYU and Bears broadcaster Glenn Kozlowski going to join us live. His catch in the back of the end zone against Michigan was monumental in BYU winning the 1984 national championship. We've been counting down the days to have Koz on. He's on tonight.
Yes, we have. Hey, rebound week for Cougar basketball. We call it that? Can we call it rebound week?
We better call it rebound week.
Need a rebound, right? How about UVU tomorrow in the Marriott Center? Mark Madsen brings his team up. Been studying them since you and I are doing that game. They're a little bit scary to me.
They got a 7-footer.
Yeah, they can play way above the rim. And so they've got some size. They got some guys that can shoot it. We'll talk a little bit about that. But UVU tomorrow, and then it doesn't get any easier. How about a trip down to Vegas to meet Creighton in Vegas on Saturday?
They were number 7 like 2 weeks ago. Now they're number 21.
Right.
But
a very, very good basketball team.
We're going to visit live with Ernie Kuiper, president of Sports Network LLC, the promoter of Saturday night's game at Mandalay Bay. How challenging is it to put together a game like this? Plus, we have tickets. We're going to give out 3 pairs of 2 throughout our show tonight. And we're going to have a graphic pop up here in a little bit that'll say first person on YouTube or Twitch or wiseguys.com that says tickets please, you'll win 2 seats. But remember, and here it is right here, we'll give out 2 right now. Remember, it's in Las Vegas.
Right.
So you need to be kind of in Las Vegas or driving to Vegas to go to this game. How many do we
have to give away?
We have 3 sets of 2.
Okay, so 3 times during the show we'll tell you.
And this is number 1.
Are we doing one right now?
Let's just do it right now while it's up.
Yeah, but please remember, there you go.
There's the tickets, please.
Please remember, it's in Vegas. Right?
So our admin's gonna email you. And who was that first up that said tickets, please?
It's BTE. It's BT Edmonds.
BT Edmonds. Okay. Hey, congrats. Hang with us. We're going to give away
Edmonds,
some more.
You remember, it's in Vegas, right?
That's not the Marriott Center. And all right. So our guys will take care of you.
We'll do that twice more during the show.
Exciting.
Okay. So starting off that. Hey, how about former BYU pitcher and major leaguer Michael Rucker? He just finished an outstanding season with the Chicago Cubs. He's going to join us live a bit later. We'll ask him what it's like to pitch against guys like Aaron Judge.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome.
That'd be great.
All right. The wait continues for the Big 12 as we look at our headlines tonight. We thought it might be last Thursday. That's what we had been kind of told. Mm-hmm. December 1 was the target date. And then the night before, the Big 12 said, hey, it's going to be a little longer, maybe mid-December, which is next week. So the wait continues. The first Big 12 game will be September 23rd in either Provo or on the road. And we are on pins and needles.
Yep, it'll be fun. I'm just going to go right down the thing and see if Oklahoma is going to be in town. That's my only wish for the first season. I want Oklahoma in Lavelle Edwards Stadium in the inaugural season of the Big 12. Anything else I don't really care about.
I'm on board with that. Absolutely.
And you said I want 7 home games, but you're saying you're okay if there's 6.
And then play one in Vegas. That's what I'm. 7's good. 7 prices out a lot of folks.
Yeah.
But if you do 6 and then you throw your bonus game in Vegas and charge tickets outside of the season ticket package,
yeah,
I think that's one way you can do it.
Okay. Well,
we'll see.
We'll see how it goes. So, how about the New Mexico Bowl? Let's talk about that a little more. BYU versus SMU in the New Mexico Bowl in Albuquerque. That's Saturday, December 17th. This is BYU's 40th bowl game, which is pretty cool, and it comes against the program that gave BYU its first bowl victory in 19. How about that? The 40th anniversary, or 40th bowl participation, and it's back against the team that they won their first one. And by the way, that was that 46-45, the Miracle Bowl with Jim McMahon bringing him back from 20 down with like 3 minutes to go in the game.
True classic.
Unbelievable. So SMU's the opponent. Pretty fun opponent, really. Both teams are 7-5, and SMU has wins against North Texas, Lamar, Navy, Tulsa, Houston, South Florida, and Memphis. But here's what I want people to hear. Here were their scores, the number of points that they scored in their wins. 49, 45, 40, 45, 41, 39. And listen to this one. Are you ready for this? 77.
Wow.
They beat Houston 77-63. That's not a basketball score.
Houston is the number one basketball team. They don't even score 77 points.
77-63 in a football game. Their losses are to Maryland, TCU, Central Florida. So Big 10 and 2 new Big 12 teams. Cincinnati, another Big 12 team.
Yep. And
then Tulane. Here's their scores in their losses, the points that they scored in their losses. 34, 34, 19 against Central Florida, 27 Cincinnati, and 24 against Tulane. So even when they lose, their average scores like 28 points. If you could even throw out the 77, and they're averaging like in the high 40s in the games that they win. So what am I expecting in this game? SMU's going to be throwing the football all over the place. I think this is going to be a really entertaining, high-octane offensive football game.
Let's hope.
I don't think either team can stop the other.
You know who's going to help us break it all down next week on the Wise Guys?
Yes.
Heisman Trophy winner Ty Detmers.
That's right.
We're excited about that.
We'll talk about quarterback play with him, and I think Ty actually likes that kind of game. Don't you think he does?
I think so. I think they're fun to play, and everyone seems to have a good time.
Yeah, so there's a little bit about the New Mexico Bowl for you.
BYU Sports Nation Game Day will start at 5:30 Eastern, 3:30 Mountain on December 17th on BYU TV from University Stadium in Albuquerque and from our studios here in Provo. The Cougars and Mustangs play at 7:30 Eastern, 5:30 Mountain on ABC, coast to coast and around the world, with a live postgame show to follow on BYU TV. When the game was announced, this was an ESPN afternoon game.
Right.
But then things changed.
Right. It's what do they call it? They flexed it.
Yeah.
They flexed the game.
NBC said, Raiders, we don't want you on Sunday night because you're not that good, even though your running back's been great on my fantasy team.
He's good.
So they said, Raiders and Patriots, you're going back to the day schedule. The Las Vegas Bowl was scheduled for the night before at Allegiant Stadium. But the NFL requires more time to change over the field from college to pro than a night game can provide. So the Las Vegas Bowl swapped with the New Mexico Bowl. They take the 12-10 Mountain Time kick, and then BYU moves to prime time, which I'm okay with. It'll be a little cooler in Albuquerque, but more eyeballs.
Yeah, and here's the people were asking me today, why does it take them so long to get a stadium ready? And I'm going, here's what you don't remember about Allegiant Field. They have two different surfaces. So the Raiders play on a grass surface. The entire field is on like rail cars.
Yeah,
like
it's parked out back.
So they push it outside of the stadium, out through a slot. They water it out there. It grows in the sun. They mow it out there, and they roll it in for the Raiders games. They have another field that's field turf.
The grass they grow in North Las Vegas is a different kind of grass. This is not the NFL grass we're talking about.
So this is a field turf. It's artificial surface.
Yeah.
And when they have a college game or some big event, it's a lot more durable. The NFL athletes like to play, everybody likes to play in natural grass, but they take that natural grass field out, they roll in the artificial surface field, and the bowl game will be played on an artificial surface. So that's what takes so much time to get all of that set up. So there's a real reason why they had to flex that game.
I like that it's a night game, and I like that it's on ABC.
Better at night, right?
We're better at night for sure. But for the first time, I think in history, and I could be wrong here, but I think the BYU men's basketball team hosts Utah December 17th at 4 o'clock Mountain Time. It's on the CBS Sports Network, so it's not like we can move it.
Right.
So that game's going to be going on when our pregame show's on, and it's still going to be going on when they kick the bowl game off.
Right.
And so you expect a full house at the Marriott Center for the rivalry game, but at the same time, the football game's on, and that's a conflict that we just haven't seen happen.
Yeah. So here's what
are you going to do?
Here's what we recommend. So everybody has the picture-in-picture. Just put the Utah BYU basketball game in your picture-in-picture with no volume on, because you don't want to listen to those CBS guys anyhow. Then put the pregame show on the other half of the screen and listen to us.
Perfect. solution.
That's my suggestion.
Or get a second TV and do that. A lot of folks have those too. We're excited about it. We ready with Kalani, DJ? Let's hear from the head football coach as he kicked off a week of bowl prep yesterday.
Do you want to just start off with an opening statement, and we can kind of move on to some questions from there?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Ryan. Just really excited about our bowl game and knowing that we've been invited to the New Mexico Bowl. We're looking forward to being out there in Albuquerque and playing in this game December 17th. And really honored that we're invited to this bowl game. I know that there's been some history with our program playing in the bowl game before, the last year as a Mountain West team, and now this will be our last year in independence before we move on to a conference next year. So really excited about the matchup, especially with SMU. I think the world of that program and what Rhett Lashley's done with that program, and watching them on film, they have tons of talent, and I just like the way they compete. Really honored to be on the field with them and to have this experience with the bowl game with them as well. I know there'll be festivities and things like that where we get to be around each other, and I know we're going to compete on the field, but looking forward to getting knowing them and the coaching staff and the players as well. Just really honored to be in that game against a quality opponent. You see their team and what they've done, and they do it in all three phases. They're really well coached, and they're explosive all over the place. I mean, I'm a defensive guy, so I always go look right at the offense, and the fact that they've scored 77 points in the game is scary, but looking forward to the matchup, and then a really talented quarterback in Mordecai, and they have a bunch of guys that can run the ball, that they can turn to, and they do spread out the run game quite a bit with all of them, including the quarterback himself. And then they have a lot of athletic, talented receivers that can create on a short route. They can make the game. They can make it a long night for any team. So, and then they have Rice. He got almost 100 receptions, which is hard to do in this day and age in football. And he's one of the premier receivers out there. So. A tough task for our defense, but we're looking forward to the matchup. Their defense, they fly around and well coached, and obviously all three phases. I don't see a lot of issues, and I see a well coached team. So I'm looking forward to the matchup and excited with this matchup with SMU. Our guys are excited about the opportunity to get to practice and to get better as a team, and we'll be ready for this game and then enjoy all the festivities. I'm a food guy, so it seems like every food show I look at, the things they're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I'm looking forward to the wonderful food and gaining some weight while I'm out there.
Head coach Kalani Sitake, his initial thoughts on the Las Vegas Bowl. We'll break down the game in greater detail next week. But just before we came on the air, Northern Colorado made it official. They've hired Ed Lamb as their new head football coach. So he leaves Kalani's staff and returns. He was a head coach at Southern Utah, came up to kind of help Kalani figure out how to be a head coach, and now he's back being a head coach. Congrats to him and Sarah and all the kids. Off to Northern Colorado.
Ed made some significant contributions to this BYU program, and people have been asking me today since this news came out. And first, I think he was a finalist for the UNLV job too. So Ed's name was out there, and he's been the finalist for a number of jobs over the last year. Yeah, and it's been the first runner-up kind of a thing. And Northern Colorado came after him really, really hard. And if you think about it, he took over a program at Southern Utah that had really been struggling, and he turned it around quickly to where they were conference champs. Like he's a big, he took a team that struggled to be conference champs at that level in that league. Northern Colorado looks at that and says, whoa, man, this guy knows the formula. And I do think he knows the formula. I think he'll go in there, and I bet they'll be very competitive very quickly and be competing for championships. Ed's a terrific head coach. And Kalani, in his first head coaching gig, you want to have somebody like Ed who had gone into a program, had to build all the infrastructure and put practice, like just to understand how to just run a program. He brought Ed in to be the assistant head coach and to help him set everything up. And Ed was an integral part of doing all of that. And I think, so here you are all these years later, Kalani's got a great grasp of all that now. And I think it was like, well, for Ed now, He'd done exactly what Kalani wanted him to come in to do, and now it was time for him to go back to be a head coach. And I will tell you this, if Ed can duplicate what he did at Southern Utah, at Northern Colorado, then these jobs where he's been the first runner-up, like these Mountain West Conference jobs or maybe even bigger jobs than some of those, they're going to go, wait a minute. This guy took over 2 struggling programs, and he brought them both to championships. If he can do that, which I think he can at Northern Colorado, you watch him get a bigger job. I think Ed's an excellent head coach. He'll do a great job there.
We wish him the best. There's other names being kicked around as to who's going to join the staff. We'll talk about that a bit later. Also, the transfer portal is open, and Jacob Conover and a couple of Cougars are in it. We'll talk about that as well. We're going to go right to the Wise Guys portal, which we find to be one of the great places to be. We've been counting down for weeks to this very moment. We welcome one of the all-time greats at BYU. Played receiver in 1981 and 1983 through 1985. Caught passes from Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Robbie Bosco, and at least one pass from Blaine Fowler.
Oh, he caught a few. He
also spent 8 seasons with the Chicago Bears and remains a broadcaster in the Chicago market on WGN. A pleasure to welcome Glenn Kozlowski to the Wise Guys. Glenn, good evening. Thanks for being with us.
Sure. I got a face for radio and a voice for newspapers. So honestly, can you see me? Because really, I don't want people to see me. I'm just a kind of an ugly, overweight guy.
We see you just fine. Okay. Now, you've traded Chicago winters for Utah winters as you're living back out here. What was the coldest winter you ever went through back there in Chicago?
Well, I mean, in '88, we played the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and it was Bears weather, right? It was 27 below. And, of course, they beat us 21-7. So, Bears weather really didn't matter. They had a guy named Jerry Rice and another guy named Joe Montana, and they beat us that day, and that's how it works, right? So, but, yeah, I mean, it was funny because it was so cold that I put my cleats up against the heaters, and it melted everything. And my cleats, I just basically put on tennis shoes in the second half because there was no way I was going to be able to do anything.
Certainly in your years there, Kaz, you had more than one game where it was cold and snowy, and that's just Chicago.
Oh,
Did you ever think, what in the heck am I doing here? Why am I not playing for the Niners or in San Diego? What am I doing in Chicago? Did you ever question that with that kind of weather?
No, I was just happy to play, honestly, Blaine. As you know, I mean, I blew my knee out my senior year, and I didn't know if I'd ever play again. Back then, nobody came back from the injury. I tore all my ligaments, broke my kneecap. Brent Pratley, our team doctor at the time, did a really good job of, laying back and putting stitches in my meniscus. So I was able to play. So I was very fortunate. And you know what? Every day that I got to play for Chicago, I was thrilled to death because, I thought it was over. And, I got a second lease. Dicka loved me, and, the rest is history. But, yeah, I made my living on special teams. But one of the things I'll say about Blaine, too, people don't realize this. Blaine and Robbie were probably the 2 best quarterbacks, besides Jim McMahon. I'm going to say that because Jim was the best I ever played with. But these 2 guys went at it in spring practice. And I think they did a coin toss to figure out who was going to start. And the only regret I have is I wish I could have sent Blaine on a mission because he would have been an unbelievable starting quarterback for BYU. But, the rest is history. And, I'm proud of what he's accomplished. And, he and I are going to be a trivia question, right?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
First pass.
Tell them that, like, we're an obscure trivia, right? You and I together, right, Kaz?
Yes, 100%. First pass ever completed in 1984 because Blaine came in and he was the tailback. They flipped it to him. I think Chris Doman crushed you.
Yeah, right in my chin. Put a big knot on my chin for sure.
I know. I mean, just 10-toed Blaine, and he threw it out there, and I was a little slow, and I had to dive to catch it. Ended up breaking my other elbow when I caught it. So, that was the year, and honestly, I look back on it now, and I'm just proud of all my teammates, and especially Blaine, what he's done in his career and what he's doing now. And I get to watch you guys all the time, and I really enjoy your guys' show.
Thank you. Not only was that the first catch of that undefeated season, it was the first pass reception in the history of ESPN's live sports.
Yes, it was. You're right. I forgot about that. We were the first, national broadcast for ESPN. So Blaine and I will always be in the trivia side of things.
There we go. So, and Kaz came back to me, and he's like, dude, could you not have made it a little bit better throw? I had to dive for that one. And I says, Kaz, you don't know the dudes that just hit me. And then we watched it on film, and Kaz was like, You know what? I guess that was okay. You did get smacked in the face on that one. I'll give you that.
Oh, he got crushed, and it really caught him off guard. And honestly, I mean, the fact that he even threw it, and then of course we got lucky because I think Dave Mills and I broke Chris Dolman's ankle.
Yes,
the next series later, I hit him high, and Dave hit him low, and it was over for him for the day. But,
so Kaz,
it worked out for us.
You probably remember. Do you remember the game where Kyle Van Noy just took over the bowl game down in San Diego? And I had said I had never seen a defensive guy control a football game single-handedly like that, except for Chris Dolman at the beginning of our Pittsburgh game until Kaz and Millsy knocked him out. We literally couldn't move the ball because of him, right? He was like single-handedly stopping us, right?
Well, remember, Robbie's first pass ended up in the third row of the Pittsburgh side of the stadium. I mean, he just floated this thing. It was a little hitch. And he literally – and he was throwing it, I believe it was to me, or maybe it was Mark Bellini, and Mark just looked at it and just followed it. And, I'm looking at it going, wow, that is, we're thinking this is going to be a long day. But it turned out to be okay. And, the cool part about it is, and Blaine, you understand this, I look at BYU this year, they didn't have confidence. And when you lose confidence, you start losing games. And it really was apparent this year. And, I don't know how you regain it, but you and I both know that when we played, we thought we could beat everyone. We wanted to play everyone, and please, sign us up because we'll go wherever you want to. And we just believed that we're going to beat everyone, and that's why we did. I mean, really, would you not agree, Blaine?
Yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy is if you expect to win. And Glenn, we talk about this, and sometimes I talk about it with the guys that are there now. You kind of have to have the mentality, like even if you get down in a game early, you'll remember, Glenn, we get down in a game and we go, well, this isn't going to last. Like, we will absolutely come back. Nobody can beat us. I don't care if we're down by 14. We'll figure out a way to come back and win. And even when we would occasionally lose, we would say to ourselves, well, that's just an aberration. That's just not right. That'll never happen again. Well, we won't lose again. And you almost have to approach games with that mentality to play free and to play loose and to play fast. And that's a hard mentality to get. I don't know why we had it in such abundance. I mean, and we
were all cocky, Blaine.
That's
Let's
true.
Be honest.
But
every one of us thought we were the best.
You've been at this a long time. Not only did you play at the highest level, you've coached in high school very successfully. You and Sluggo, Dave Mills coached together.
Yeah.
What kinds of things can you do to instill that in a team? Because and I know how unbelievably important that mentality is, that you are just going to win no matter what.
Right. And I mean, I look back on it now and I'm going, man, I remember in Hawaii, we were down 7. There was like 2 minutes to go. And there was 4 people just giving it to me the whole game, right? They were right behind our bench. So they were like, hey, Kozlowski, what are you going to do now? I said, well, I'm going to go down and score with the rest of the team. And, of course, we did, right? Robbie threw a pass. I caught it. And then when I came off and I looked at him, I was taking a drink. They all 4 stood up and started clapping and said, you guys are out of your minds, but you're cool to watch. And it was, that was kind of it. I mean, we just never thought we would lose. And, we just, we believed in each other. And to this day, we still keep in touch with each other. And, I think the one thing that really separated our, 84 was we genuinely loved each other. And I think that still holds true today. And Blaine's shaking his head, but I'm telling you, Dave, it was unique, but we never, ever thought we were going to lose a game. And, we would fight with each other half the time. Mark Bellini, Adam Haysbert. So I had the ability to go to either X or Z. And so I'd hear the play call, and then I'd jump to the other side, and Bellini and I would be fighting in the huddle because everybody thought they could make the play. And, I mean, that was it. And, listen, Blaine comes in, we're going to make plays. In fact, he kept my streak alive in 84 because you threw the only pass to me against Tulsa, right?
That's right. That's
I caught
right.
it, and, of course, I hurt myself, and then I had to go out. But, yeah, it is funny as I look back on it now. It's just, it was unique. We just loved each other, and quite frankly, we just wanted to play football, and we thought we could beat everyone.
One of our live streamers tonight's Mike Z, just me, says, Glenn, my younger brother served his mission in Chicago and had several meals at Jim McMahon's house.
Was Jim hosting the missionaries back in those days?
Oh yeah, I mean Nancy was active, and Julie
Yeah.
and her were really close. And Jim, the weird part about it is the elders would show up, and Jim would be in his thong bikini bottom cutting grass with no shirt on, right? And these poor missionaries are looking at him like, "Oh, what am I doing?" And, Julie and I would go over, and we'd have dinner with them. But Jim was, he still is. He's a big supporter of the missionaries, always was in Chicago, and did a great job of just, if you were from BYU or you were a missionary, Jim was good with it.
That's cool. I read a quote where you once said, looking back on your career, being at BYU changed my life. What did you mean by that?
Well, Blaine will understand this. We are all a bunch of idiots. I remember Blaine as a freshman. He'd always let me in.
We were in the dorms together. Glenn and I were.
Blaine was my knock on the window. Robbie would never get up, but Blaine would get up and let me in at 3 a.m. or whatever time it was. And he'd be like, "Okay, get upstairs and, don't be an idiot." I'm like, "Thanks, Blaine." So
I tried. You guys, I tried. Everybody
It
out there,
sounds like
I
you
tried.
really tried.
So Robbie and I were on the first floor. Glenn you're on the second floor. Or
Right.
and back in those days, the dorms, they would lock you out at midnight. There was a curfew. And plus, I think Kaz lost his key. So never fails.
yeah, that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah.
I like that
Never
story.
fails. He didn't get it taken away. He just lost it. And never fail, like 1, 2, maybe 3 in the morning, to be tap on the window, and we're on the ground floor, and Robbie would go, "It's Kaz, I am not getting up." And I would go, "I'm getting up." And so I would get up, and Kaz would go, "Can you meet me down at the end and let me in?" I'm like, "I got you, brother." And I would go down and let him in, and I would go, "Please just go up to your room and don't cause a ruckus so Sister Pierce doesn't come down on me too." Right?
Yeah. Yep, 100%. And the other thing I remember about Blaine is he'd be in front of the piano just playing away. And he has a great voice. People don't realize Blaine is talented musically as well, but he'd sing his little guts out, and I just wanted to punch him because all the girls would be like, "Oh, look at him play the piano." And I'm going, "Are you kidding me?"
Hey, Kaz could sing too. He could sing too.
I couldn't sing, but I could sing in the shower, and you always sound better in the shower, by the way. Just FYI.
Yeah.
We all do.
Well, so we were there together as freshmen, and then and lots of people know a bit about your story, but it really did change your life because things weren't all rosy and great at first. There, we were great on the football field for you. Jim loved you as a receiver as a freshman. You'd come in early, and you were already contributing out on the field, and then things changed for a period of time. But you didn't quit on BYU. You went through some struggles and came back and finished what you started. Tell us a little bit about that and what that was like, and what made you just stick with it and come back.
Well, number one, the little blonde that I was dating, who is now my wife, she was pretty straightforward on the fact that she wasn't going with me. I was going to go to University of Miami, and they were all set to take me, and I would set up a job for her. And she said, "You know what? I'm not going to marry a guy or date a guy that doesn't have the courage to stand up and come back and make it right." And apparently you had to go to school, which I didn't realize. My first
it is a requirement,
and you shouldn't break all of the rules and make up some new rules, right? So that I paid the price, and Lavelle called me in. He said, "Look, we love you, but you gotta become a man." And I really appreciated it. So between Lavelle, Norm Chow, my old teammates, everybody was still reaching out. And of course, my lovely wife, Julie, said, "No, I'm not going with you." So I said, "Okay, I'll come back, make it right." It was the best thing that ever happened to me. We actually had 3 kids before we left, or 2, and the third was in the oven at the time when I left BYU. So, it was the greatest experience. I actually went to class and, got an education. We all hung out together. Blaine and I were living in Plymouth Terrace in the same, quad.
Our kids were riding their big wheels around the quad in the morning. Yep.
My son, especially Brent, my oldest boy, he was like 2 years old, and he had the big wheel, and he'd get out at 5 a.m. and ride that quad.
Notorious for waking up everybody in the quad at 5 a.m.
Yeah, but at least you got up for school, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
But yeah, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And, I'm grateful that my sons had that opportunity, all of them, to go to BYU, whether it was BYU Idaho or, BYU Provo, it was, it's something that changes your life, and we're all better people because of it. But it did start with Lavelle, and then, good guys like Blaine. We were all in that same class together, and we just hung out and just had a good time. Vi Sikahema, he's in the red seats now, so he can't come on anymore, I'm guessing, right?
Oh no, we gotta get him on, but we have to get permission
about him, right, boy?
Yeah, we get the story. We're not allowed to. Once you get in the red seats, then we have to put those stories in the past about Vi.
Yeah,
so. I don't even remember any stories about Vi anymore. But yeah, it was a great time, and honestly, anybody that goes to BYU and they stick through it and they get through it, they end up leaving after 4 years. It's the best thing that you'll ever do. It really is.
We're visiting with former BYU and Chicago Bears receiver Glenn Kozlowski on the Wise Guys. Isn't it interesting that decisions, even at a young age, can have such a lasting impact on everything that lies up ahead?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And, like I said, people don't really understand that competition between Blaine and Robbie. And, I'm probably over talking about this, but it was a thing of beauty. And, the tough part for Blaine and Robbie is our defense was so good in that spring. Remember, we couldn't even get a first down for like 2 weeks. I mean, they were just pummeling us. And I was fighting with everybody on the defense, right? Because I'm like, we got to get at least the first down. So I'm going to get in a fight with everyone until we got it. But it took us about 2 weeks.
Yeah. And it's, hey, Glenn leaving and then coming back. People talk about Glenn. You watched Jamal Williams, and he had a similar story to yours, where Julie said, "Hey, I want you to come back," and you were resolute and said, "I'm coming back. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to finish what I started, and I'm going to do it with a flourish." So he started out, Glenn started out great. He was phenomenal as a freshman, one of the best freshman receivers we'd ever had. But then he came back after being gone, and he made a mark where he leaves as one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I think you remember, Glenn, that Jamal Williams came and he left school, and UCLA and USC, much like Miami was recruiting him. Miami was the best program in the country at the time. So when Glenn says he had an opportunity to go to Miami, he had an opportunity to go to the multinational championship program, right, during that time, much like Jamal. Jamal's mom said, you committed. I want you to go finish what you said you were going to start, much like the conversation you had with Julie. And Jamal said, "Nope, you're right, Mom. That's what I need to do. That's the right thing to do." So he got things right. He came back to BYU, and he leaves one of the all-time greats in BYU history. Now he's representing BYU in the NFL in a phenomenal way. But Glenn, you were the first guy that did that, and people forget about that. I want people to remember that you did that, and now Jamal has done that. They're two really similar stories, right?
Yeah, and even Reno Mahe. Same thing, right?
Yes.
So there have been a few guys along the way that have gone through it. But you know what? Lavelle was such a big part for me. And, Blaine will say the same thing. Dave Mills, to this day, when we talk about Lavelle, he literally, we call him Sluggo, bless his heart. He tears up talking about Lavelle. That's how important he was to all of us. And, he kind of just set the pace for us. We were all a bunch of idiots, but we loved playing football. And he kept us in line and kept us going. And, truthfully, when it was all said and done, we all look back now and just go, wow, I don't know how we survived it, but we did. And we're all better men for it. And so that is really what BYU offers. And I hope, as they move into the, what are we calling it now?
Big 12. Yeah, still Big 12, yeah.
They might add 14. Who knows? Whatever it's going to happen. That's still the feeling. And I feel like Kalani is doing that. He's trying to reestablish what Lavelle did. And, nobody could ever duplicate him, right, Blaine? I mean, He was one of a kind. He was basically, he ran it, now that I'm an active member of the LDS Church, he'd give us personal priesthood interviews, even though we thought it was just our exit interview. And he would give it to you all the time. And I mean, it was so funny. Like I had a standing Monday morning with Lavelle, then Glenn Tuckett, and then I had to go up to President Holland's office because I got scolded for swearing or whatever. I was an idiot. I mean, I just was. And, it was that process of working with those great men really helped me to grow up and become a better man myself. So, yeah, it's, you just can't say enough about what that experience is. And I wanted my sons to have it. And I want everyone, anybody that wants to go. It's not easy to get in, by the way.
Right.
You know, academically, it's a great school. So, you know, it's moving in the right direction. 7-5 doesn't, you know, it's not what they thought it would be this year. I'm glad to hear that, you know, one of the coaches is moving on, and you know, you got to make changes always. I think it was 30% is what I always believed in. You know, you had to make 30% change, and that doesn't mean, you know, it's coaches or whatever, but you got to do things differently every year, and you got to increase it and do it differently by 30%. And if you don't, you're going to fail. And I remember Blaine, Bill Walsh would be there. We'd have all these coaches coming in and just, you know, watching spring practice and watching us practice during the year. And, you know, some of our linemen, Louis Wong asked me the other day, Blaine, he goes, "Why did you guys never practice?" I said, "Because we didn't have to." It's so bad. He's like, you know, the wide receivers, you guys were always in the training room pretending like you were hurt while everybody else was out practicing. And, you know, it's just the way it was back in those days. It was, you know, just a great time.
And we had, you know, there's some coaching movement, and you mentioned that. People forget that back when BYU was on a really good run, there were a number of guys that were kind of coming through the program that would come and go. And we had, you know, Glenn and I had Ted Tollner on our staff. We had Mike Holmgren come through the program. Andy Reid was a graduate assistant through the program. Brian Billick was part of the program. Kyle Whittingham was a GA there. People don't even remember Charlie Stubbs. Charlie Stubbs was in our program with us. Charlie was the offensive coordinator for a national championship at Alabama, and he moved on and did things. Jim Lind, who was there, ended up being a big-time linebackers coach with Mike Holmgren up with the Seahawks when they were there.
And Green Bay also. He was there in Green Bay. And, you know, the funny part, you bring up Mike Holmgren, and so he and I were talking when I was on the Bears, and he was the OC for the 49ers. He said, "You know, Kyle, I was never worried." And it's kind of funny. He goes, "I was never worried," because we're talking about the offensive guys. He goes, "I was never worried about you and Blaine." He goes, "because I knew Blaine was always going to talk his way through anything." You had the ability to just say, "I'm going to fight you and get it done." And so he never worried about us. It was interesting as he and I talked, and, you know, there were some guys that he said, "Well, I just didn't think they'd make it." But, you know, I bring it up now because we're on the air together, and I don't think I've ever said that to you, Blaine. And, you know, but it was interesting because it would have been, I think it was 89, maybe 90. And I had got mad at Mike because they'd run up the score on us. Anytime we played the 49ers, they'd pump. I mean, it was ugly. And so, you know, I was yelling at him. He's looking at me like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? I'm like, "You see, Mike," and I'm just screaming at him. And then, you know, he ended up at Green Bay as the head coach, and he and I spent a lot of time together there. And, you know, Andy Reid, Ron Rivera, and my other guy, Les Frazier, who's the D coordinator now for the Buffalo Bills, and even John Harbaugh. So I had called Andy and said, "Hey, would you interview these guys?" Right. So I take full credit for those guys coaching careers. But, you know, Andy hired them, and these guys turned out to be, you know, unbelievable coaches. Ronnie's still doing it. Les is doing it. I mean, it's Harbaugh. Obviously, it speaks for himself what he's doing in Baltimore. And, you know, it's funny when you look at all the connections and how much it works together. And think of the coaches we had, Blaine, when we were playing from 81 to 85.
Yeah, I look at those, Glenn, and
the list goes on and on.
Sometimes I look at those team photos of our championship years, and I'm thinking back about how many great players we had. And then I look at the coaching staff, and I'm thinking, well, maybe we weren't so good. Maybe we were really, really well coached when you look at those. But my point on all of that, Glenn, is that people get concerned when coaching staffs turn over and all that. But sometimes coaches come in for a time. They bring something to the program. They move on and they have success. Somebody else comes in. They bring something else. It's okay to have a little bit of turnover, and it helps the program move forward. People get all alarmed, and they call for people to be gone too soon. They get worried when they leave. But it's all part of the process, and Kalani can be the steady guy. People forget that we changed the offensive staff over a few years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, all the time we would roll it over, and these guys would go to the pros or the NFL, and they all had, you know, they're still, you know, Mike is retired now, but I mean, he ended up being the GM in Cleveland. I would never take that job, but he did. And, you know, he did the best he could there. It's just kind of, you can't win in Cleveland. I think it's just like And apparently you can't win in Chicago anymore either. That's a new
I
rule.
know. I
Yeah,
feel
that
bad about
seems to-
that. I was talking to Jim about that when he was up here for Danny's funeral, for Danny Plater's funeral, and he's like, yeah. He just is like, I don't know if you can win in Chicago anymore. So,
Yeah, well, it's, it starts with the leadership. So the guy at the top, and like I said, even in business, I applied that to everything I did in my life. You got to make 30% changes each year, and it can be whatever it is. But if you don't make those changes, you're not progressing. You're not getting better. And I believe that with all my heart. And, that's what people come and go, but you got to keep making changes. And sometimes, the best change is the one where you just say, hey, we're not connecting. It's not working. It's time to go.
Glenn Kozlowski on the Wise Guys caught 141 passes for 2,302 yards and 24 touchdowns during his time at BYU, also an enormous part of the 1984 national championship team. And speaking of change, let's talk about the transfer portal. It's open. We think there's like 1,300 kids put their names in, somewhere around there. What do you think of this portal opportunity, and what is it doing to the college game?
It's killing it. So is the licensing, right? I mean, can you imagine, Blaine, if Kyle Morrell and the defense, saw you and Robbie get $1 million deals or whatever it might be?
I wish they saw that, but they
Yeah,
didn't.
well, so do I, for me also. But honestly, linemen wouldn't have blocked. I mean, I don't understand what they're doing, but, it's progress, I guess, and it's change, and that's what it is. I don't like it, but it doesn't matter what I like or don't like. So, but yeah, it's different now in college football, and you can get better right away. The guy out at USC, what's his name?
Caleb Williams and
Riley, right? The head coach.
Lincoln leaves from Oklahoma, and he brings a bunch of guys with him from Oklahoma to SC, and they're really good. And people don't like to hear this, but if Caleb Williams doesn't pull his hamstring on his long run, then they're in the college football playoff and not Utah in the Rose Bowl.
I think so. What I loved most about it, and Kyle is an old teammate. I know, Blaine, you and Carrie and the Whittinghams, Kyle, you guys
We're
were very
close. Yep.
Yeah, really close, and they all lived together up at Fred's house and his wife's house up at up in the foothills there by Lavelle. I don't know how you did that, because that would have been too close for me. I'd have broken out in hives if Lavelle was. But I loved what Kyle did there, and it was listen, I always tell Utah fans, well, you had to go get a BYU guy to find.
That's true. That's a true statement right there.
It is, but I'm proud of what he's doing. And,
yes.
Like anybody that I play with and, my old teammates, I watch after them, I look at them, and I really appreciate everything that everyone's accomplishing. And it's fun to watch. That's all.
Got a few more questions with you. Let's get the confirmation of this one, and then we'll talk to you about the Bears a little bit. It's the Holiday Bowl. It's fourth quarter, 1984, 17-10 Michigan. The big question is, you're in the back of the end zone and you make this circus catch, among the best catches we've ever seen. However, was Robbie Bosco throwing that ball away and you went and caught it for a touchdown? Because Robbie gives us one story.
Yeah.
Blaine's pretty sure he was chucking it away.
He was throwing away, and Glenn made the catch. Glenn made it look good on that.
Yeah, he was. He'll say till he passes, I was throwing it to you, but I think he was nothing out of the back of the end zone, and I just happened to, and literally the guy that hit me elevated me even higher because I jumped and then he jumped and he kind of pushed me up and I was able to catch it. I mean, I don't think I could have gotten that high if the guy didn't hit me. Number 5, I don't even know who he was, and then of course I pistol whipped the entire Michigan sideline, which Jim Harbaugh and I are dear friends now, and he said, man, everybody wanted to kill you on our sideline. And I said, yeah, I take great pride on being the guy that was most hated by anybody that played against BYU, and I'm proud of that. Quite frankly.
Could you get away with the gunslinger, like you used to do the gunslinger?
No.
Could you get away with it today, or would they just throw a flag every time now?
Oh, you get a flag. I mean, think about it. San Diego State, I shot down the 2 Nixon brothers, and they went crazy, and we started fighting in the end zone. And, in fact, I used to jump into the end zone in '84 and grab popcorn and everything else and high-five the fans when I would score. And, that's when they started adding all the rules and saying you can't do that. But we got away with it back then.
Yeah, it was a more fun game back in those days.
Yeah, the only time that Lavelle really got mad at me, we were playing UAU. Remember Earl Tucker, that little DB?
Yeah, the return guy that gave us
yeah,
fits.
and he was chirping all day, so I'd caught a pass over him, and I held the ball back at him as I was going into the end zone, and Lavelle lost it. I mean, he was not happy about that. Probably the first time I ever heard him use words that I never heard him say before.
You brought it out.
I remember hearing him swear at Kyle Morrell a couple of times for swearing in practice. He would swear at Kyle to stop swearing in practice, remember?
Yeah. Well, and Kyle and I had a rule that we would never fight each other, but we were always mixing it up with everyone, right? Because we just wanted the offense and defense to be on edge. And that really made us better, too. I mean, it was, our practices until we got to the season, it was ugly. I mean, we'd go at it every day.
I didn't realize that Kyle and Glenn had a pact. I knew
we didn't know there was a pact.
That they never fought each other, but they fought everybody else. That explains a lot right there.
Right. And he and I talked about it, and I'll never forget, Blaine, I was more shocked than anyone when they named me captain in '84. I'm like, I don't want to be a captain. Are you kidding me? Now I got to talk and be nice and everything else. So it was really confusing for me. But that was part of the growing up process, and it was a wonderful year. And, Louis Wong gave the first prayer. Remember that, Blaine? Yeah. We'd all get together and the coaches would leave and we'd just hug each other and say a prayer. Yeah. And we continued that all 13 weeks. And, Dave Mills and I on the road broke every bed that we were in. We jumped back and forth till we broke one of the beds, and then we'd leave. And I'm pretty sure I have a big bill there, but as long as we won, they didn't send us a bill to pay for it. So
just so you know, I'll give you guys a little insight on these captains. When we got ranked up in the top 10, we start watching the polls and we start thinking, well, these guys need to lose. These guys need to lose. Like, we would literally talk to each other about it. Well, Lavelle and the staff would come in and say, listen, we cannot worry about any of that stuff. You just worry about our opponent this week. And then the coaches would leave and we'd have a players-only meeting, and Glenn would go, that's a bunch of crap. We need Texas to lose this week. We'd go through. We're winning. Glenn was the first one that said we were going to win a national championship.
Is that right?
He said, we got this thing. We're going to go get this thing. So, hey, I want to take you back. This is the best statistical performance of your. I feel like Glenn's greatest game may be the Michigan game because of how much it meant, right? But and that catch is one of the greatest catches I've ever seen on what we'll call Robbie's throwaway. But I'm gonna take you back to the. I want to take you back. Take you back to '85 to our opener. We're back playing Boston College in the Kickoff Classic. 10 receptions, 241 yards, and that 28-14 win against Boston College. What was that like out there? I mean, you just dominated that game single-handedly. What's that like? That feeling like to know that they just can't even guard you in a game?
Well, I sure talked about it the whole game too, to all the defensive backs. And Bill Romanowski was like a sophomore, and he kept trying to blow up my knee, right? Because I had a little knee brace on. And, you get in those zones. I had a 6'1", 240-pound cornerback, and he was going man up. So poor Robbie, I was supposed to run a curl and I'd run a streak, and then he'd underthrow me and I had to fair catch it and catch it. But like, I could beat this guy all day. And then, Mark Bellini was getting mad. He's like, I want that matchup. And we were fighting the whole game. And that was the difference, right, Blaine? We all thought we could make the play. We all wanted to make the play. And I just don't see that as much anymore with players. Guys kind of, I see it with Puka, right? Here's a kid that just said, hey, get me the ball, I'll make a play. But it took him a while to get to that point. We had 7 guys, including Blaine. Everybody thought they were the best and they could make the play. And, honestly, I think we all could. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about. You have confidence, you believe in yourself. They asked me before the game, they said, hey, what was your greatest catch? And I said, well, that's easy. It was my wife, right? So it's like, come on.
Good answer.
Writers started laughing. And then, the Sports Illustrated article where they said, well, you can't chase women at BYU. I said, oh, you can chase them. You just can't catch them at BYU, right? I mean, it was easy. They were throwing me softballs and I was just hitting it out of the park with stupid stuff. But yeah, it was, that was a great game. But I never cared about how many catches I had as much. And this is something that I think is missing now. I didn't care if I caught 100 balls or 1 ball. If we won the game, that's what mattered the most. And
Mm-hmm.
we all believed in that. We always approached it that way as a team. And, you know, I remember Kyle Morrell, we were getting ready and we were a little lackadaisical in 84 before the Holiday Bowl. And he threw that mustard bottle that missed like Kerry Whittingham and 3 other people by inches and splattered against the wall.
Oh, I remember that well.
So those were the kind of meetings that we would have once the coaches would leave. I mean, we held each other accountable, and you know, we kind of still do it. Wouldn't you agree, Blaine?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we still reach out and try to hold each other accountable and care for each other.
Last question before Blaine hits you up with 5 quick ones. Fast forward to 1988, Monday Night Football, San Francisco. McMahon hits you for a bomb, stretches you out, you catch it like the old days. You come back to the huddle. What do you say?
He goes, about time. So if you look, because really, I mean, I had a hard time cutting to the right because of my left knee. And so I really made my living on special teams. That Boston College game is where Mike Dick fell in love with me. Remember, what was his name? Chris Ruth, the big.
Yeah. Mike Ruth, the big.
Mike Ruth, yeah. Steroid using
big
guy.
nose guy. Yeah, nose guard. I didn't say that. He said it, but.
And I don't care. I mean, honestly, and, you know, bless his heart. And I'm sure now he'd probably admit it, because back in those days, it probably happened a lot more than we realized.
Yeah.
But, you know, he gets an interception, and I ran a little, I ran a hitch route. So he ran it outside, and I just 10-toed him. And then I stepped on his chest and wouldn't let him get up, and he's punching me, and flags are flying everywhere. That's what Coach Dick fell in love with me. He goes, I love the fact that you 10-toed the guy and then put your foot on his chest and wouldn't let him get up. And, you know, it really cemented my ability to play in the NFL. But my average was huge because nobody, you know, they all thought, oh, he's not going to run by. I mean, I caught a ton of passes deep down the field. But, you know, I really make my living tackling people and blowing up wedges. That's what I did.
You know, we had our fans are chiming in, and you know, what one of them, Mike Z Just Me, says Kaz got along with Dicka so well because they had the same mentality. I'd agree with that. You guys were both just tough guys, and there's a place for tough guys in football. And then BYU Sports Ethics said, my favorite quote from Dicka: "If God had wanted a man to play soccer, he wouldn't have given his arms." That sounds like Mike, doesn't it?
Oh, of course. I mean, he would come in. I'll never forget. We were playing Minnesota, and it was 89. We had an awful year. You know, a lot of our veterans got hurt. You know, our defensive guys were banged up, and he said we weren't going to win another game, and we didn't, because, you know, we all believed him. But I remember we were in Minnesota, and he said, the good guy died in church today. And we thought he said his grandmother had passed away in church. So we end up blowing out Minnesota, and we give him the game ball on behalf of, you know, losing. He's looking at us like, what are you talking about, you bunch of idiots? So, I mean, he would give the greatest speeches that we couldn't hear most of the time because, you know, he was everywhere and going crazy. But, yeah, Mike was a great guy. And, you know, look at Jim Harbaugh. Look at, I mean, a lot of guys that are coaches now. Jim is probably the most like Mike, you know, as far as college or pros go. Harbaugh is a maniac, and, you know, Mike was a maniac too. And, he, you know, he's still, even to this day, Mike would throw down with anybody.
I believe that.
He is.
All right, we got 5 questions for the great Glenn Kozlowski. You ready?
Yeah,
Well,
these are
great, by the way, because, you know, really, I was just another player on a great time at BYU and great teams.
Oh, I'm not letting him get away with that. Glenn's one of the greatest receivers. When we start talking about Puka and his skill set, or we talk about Cody Hoffman, or we talk about Austin Collie, we always compare them to Glenn Kozlowski because he's one of the all-time greats. So he's humble, but there's no question. Skill set, determination, leadership, one of the all-time greats in BYU history. So he doesn't have to say that, but I played with him, and I've watched him for 35 years or more as a broadcaster.
Well, 40. We're coming up on 40 on 84.
Oh, don't even remind me of how old I am. So these 5 questions, Glenn, are they're just rapid fire. You just the first thing that comes to your head. We do this with all of our guests at the end, and so and we get to know them. So your favorite sports movie?
That would be Brian's song.
Oh, see, it's a Bears theme.
Song. Yeah.
Well, but I remember I saw it when I was 12, and I was the guy that would fight anybody in school, and I was bawling my eyes out.
I cried my eyes out too on Brian's song. I got to tell you,
I'm 12 years old, and everybody's like, "He's not that tough. He's crying like that."
If you the first time you saw Brian's song, you didn't cry, then something's wrong with you.
That's right.
Okay,
go on.
Your favorite singer or band?
I really don't. I'm just not a big music guy. So honestly, I guess the Stones, Rolling Stones. I'll go with that.
That's good old school.
I was shoveling my neighbor's walk today listening to the Rolling Stones. They've never not been hip and happening. So Stones is a great choice.
It's around like 90 years too. So
yeah. Well, and I think a couple of the members of the band are dead, and they're still in the band. So that's something.
No one can tell.
Apparently, right?
Yes, that's something. So your favorite breakfast cereal?
Oh, that's Captain Crunch. That's a no-brainer.
Thank goodness. Because, by the way, we make fun of anybody that eats healthy cereal because we all believe in sugar-coated.
I had Captain Crunch this morning. That's a great choice.
Yeah, Captain Crunch. I mean, think about it. The Captain, it's nothing but sugar.
Yeah, it's a little sugar in the kernels. So Dave also does the straight Captain Crunch. Some of us like the Captain Crunch with the crunch berries. You don't go for the crunch berries. You go for just the regular Captain Crunch.
Well, keep in mind when I grew up, we didn't have a lot. So if we got Captain Crunch, it was a fist fight, and it was going to be the regular.
Okay, understood.
The berries were way too expensive to purchase when we were.
Okay, your favorite BYU moment, and it doesn't have to be with football. It can be any BYU moment.
I would say, and people will laugh, but I think it's the relationships that I got to develop with, in 81 when we all came in together. What was there, 38 of us, and only 8 of us made it through, when it was all said and done. So, my teammates, honestly, I miss that.
Yeah, and by the way, when he's talking about the 8 of us, what an unbelievable recruiting class, because we're talking about Glenn Kozlowski, Leon White, Kurt Govea, Louis Wong, Robbie Bosco. I don't even need to keep going on. Unbelievable recruiting class that made a huge difference over their careers there. So Glenn knows all about that. So, favorite advice you ever got from LaVell Edwards?
Shut your mouth, do your best, and then show up the next day and do the same thing. Honestly, it was pretty straightforward. He just said, "Hey, just shut your big mouth, do your best, and then do it tomorrow again." And, it's the greatest advice I ever got from him. And, I still try to shut my mouth, although I talk too much, kind of like you, Blaine.
Yes, we get Glenn and I together, forget about it.
And you're with WGN Radio, so you're still connected to Chicago as well, even though living here in Utah. It's one of the great things about technology. But how often are you back to the Windy City with work?
As little as possible. I mean, honestly, I love being out here in Utah. My family's here. A lot of my old teammates that I'm connecting with, and I will go back when I have to. But honestly, I'm happy to be here, and I love Utah. It's a great place, and I left it a long time ago and said I'd never come back. So everybody's like, "Why are you back for? You told us you'd never come back." And I said, "Yeah." I kind of blew that one. But, the cool part is we're going right now. My wife cuts grass at Eagle Lake Country Club in Roy, Utah, I might add.
Yes.
It is the home of the great Jim McMahon where he played. But, she has her big Christmas party tonight, so we're headed there. But, it's little blonde out there cutting the tee boxes all summer. It's hilarious.
She's the best. We give her all credit. We didn't know that anybody could tame the great cause. But Julie did it and did a phenomenal job. She tamed the great cause.
Well, I wouldn't say great, but yeah, she laid it out, and really, I raised 4 sons. They all went on mission. So I'm really proud of what she and I accomplished over the course of our life together. And we've got, 13 grandkids now, and our oldest is a dancer. And I got to get Blaine's daughter to talk to her at some point, because she's going to turn 16 this year, which is scary, right? It's just all of us now.
You've got 1 week to go catch Libby in Moulin Rouge at the Eccles Center. She's on the national touring cast, and they're here at the Eccles in Salt Lake City through this next Sunday. So she's on her way down to. She's going on in about half an hour.
Yeah, it's
So,
fantastic.
Dave and I went to watch her last Saturday. We did the game at Vivint, and then we had some dinner, and we went and watched Libby and Moulin Rouge.
That's great. That's great.
So,
Glenn, we salute you for all that you do, how you represent BYU, and how you you're living your life, and we're just thrilled to death to have you on our show. We hope you'll come back again, and again, all happy holidays to you and your family, and thanks so much for gracing us tonight and classing up our show.
Oh yeah, right. You guys just lost a bunch of listeners, so I apologize.
People are loving it.
Get a better player on next time, and you'll do better.
Yeah, right. Hey, go to your party. Have a great Christmas.
Give Julie our love, and love you, my brother. You're the best.
You got it, Blaine. Love you too. And like I said, I wanted to go on record that Blaine Fowler was an incredible quarterback. Unfortunately, I'm being serious here. It just we just had two of the best at the same time, and it was an eyelash between the two of them. And we always felt like if because Robbie would get banged up sometimes, nobody ever worried about Blaine coming in because we knew we'd be fine. So
well, he'll never be the same after hearing that tonight. So thank you, Glenn. We appreciate that. Hey, have a great night.
Have a great night, Glenn. Have fun.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Same to you, brother.
The great Glenn Kozlowski, outstanding receiver.
I want to just
for the
start
Cougars,
off with an
played for
opening
the
statement.
Bears,
We can kind of move on to some questions
has
from
had
there.
A very
Yeah, of course.
adventurous
Thank you,
life.
Ryan.
Great to have him on the Wise Guys.
He was the guy that you always wish. So when you get on the field, when Glenn was on the field, and Robbie and I would talk about this all the time. If everybody looked like they were covered, just find 7 and throw the ball out there.
Yeah.
He's going to make a play.
Kind of like Puka.
Just
get
exactly.
it
That's how
to
Puka is, and that's the best thing to ever have if you're a quarterback is that guy on the field that will never let the ball get intercepted and will most likely make a play. Just throw it to him.
Next week on the Wise Guys, Mark Durant, BYU basketball radio analyst, will be with us. Dave Almadova from BYU will go over the bowl festivities there in Albuquerque, and Ty Detmer, Heisman Trophy winner, going to join the show. That's all next week on the Wise Guys. Let's talk hoops for a moment. Our next guest is a 10-year veteran of event marketing and president of Sports Network LLC. They're the muscle behind Saturday night's BYU Creighton basketball game at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas and the Jack Jones Hoop Fest. It's our pleasure to welcome Ernie Kuiper to the Wise Guys. Ernie, good evening.
Good evening, fellas. How y'all doing?
Hey, good, Ernie. How are you?
Man, life is good. I'm hanging in there, getting ready for this weekend. Excited.
You're in Memphis tonight, and then it's off to Vegas, right?
Yep, Vegas tomorrow morning, early flight. Get out to Vegas and start setting things up and getting ready.
Creighton comes in number 21 in the country. BYU still trying to find itself with a new roster. They got a game tomorrow night, which Blaine and I will be calling on BYU TV. What kind of a game do you expect to see Saturday night when we finally get these two together?
I think it's going to be high flying, both teams like to get up and down and shoot threes. I think it's going to be entertaining for the crowd personally. I'm excited just to watch them play. Last year they got up and down. They played in South Dakota, the Pentagon last year. It was a battle back and forth, but I like both offenses. They like to get up and down the court and shoot it.
Yeah, that's fun for fans watching. So why Las Vegas for this matchup, and how long ago did you start to put this thing together? Did you start working on something like this to get it to all come together?
Well, it's I guess it's been my whole life. Basketball's been my whole life, so been working on it basically my whole life. But it was a couple years ago we started getting it ready. And why Las Vegas? It's the entertaining capital of the world, and everybody seems to want to play in Las Vegas. And there's other things to do other than basketball, several other things to do. So it just made sense. And with the BYU fan base, you guys don't travel, you just show up. You guys are everywhere, which is awesome. And then Creighton, they seem to travel very well. And we thought, why not try this and go to the Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas Aces Arena. We thought it'd be just, great setup, which like your Notre Dame BYU football game was just tremendous. The crowd that, showed up there.
So is it to get two teams to agree to play in Vegas? Is it a phone call that says, hey, let's do this? Or is it an arduous process?
Several phone calls. And it's just nonstop. Just, how it is, just trying to sell anything. Just keep working and working and working. And just things start coming together. And then one thing led to another. We've got TV, we've got Fox Sports 1, FS1. Then we have several other teams, Utah State, Southern Utah, Cal State, Fullerton, Loyola, Marymount, just to name a few, along with New Mexico, San Francisco, Arizona State. So we're excited. It's a great first year for us, and we're just excited to be hosting the event and see what happens.
Yeah, Ernie Kuiper, the president of Sports Network LLC, is with us for a few minutes on the Wise Guys. We're glad to have him with us. Ernie, there was a time when Vegas was off limits for college sports, and then it's not that far in the distant past. All that's changed. Now it's like a mecca for tournaments and special events. Just like this one Saturday night, it'll even host the Final Four in 2028. Is there a better city in America right now that's more equipped to stage neutral site showdowns like this BYU Creighton game than Vegas?
I mean, it just depends on the fan, you know. Obviously, I believe it's a great venue, great place to host it. Just depends on the fan and, you know, what each person likes to do. But they seem to be equipped and ready, and we're just excited to be part of Las Vegas in this event. But there's obviously several other cities out there that, you know, do a great job hosting too. But for me, if you're free, I'd suggest filling the car up with gas, or however you want to get to Vegas, come watch some good basketball.
Pat Christensen, the president of Las Vegas Events, says they are always looking for ways to get BYU's football team down there, and they've got a long history there, as you mentioned a moment ago. And how about basketball, though, moving forward with a Las Vegas event like this one on Saturday? Do you have BYU in your future plans for other extravaganzas?
We hope so. They got to have us in their future plans. So that's what we're hoping to get the Cougars back. You know, we absolutely. They've been a pleasure to work with, and they're obviously, I believe they're a great basketball team. They're gonna get it going, and Coach Pope, he's gonna make it happen. So we always want to be involved with BYU, and just the fan base that you guys have is amazing. Really, I mean, I'm just saying, from being from, you know, Memphis, Tennessee, I grew up in South Dakota. I mean, BYU is a national brand, and it's just awesome to be a part of that.
So, we're going to do a little ticket get. We gave some tickets away earlier to the event on Saturday night. So we're going to give another pair away right now. And remember, if you're not going to be in Vegas, don't chime in and get these tickets. You got to remember, this game's not in Provo, it's in Vegas. So you either need to be driving down or down in Vegas. So the first fan that we have that puts tickets please in the chat is going to qualify for this next pair of tickets. Yeah,
whether YouTube or Twitch or wiseguys.com.
The game is sold out at the Mandalay Event Center, right?
I don't know if it's sold out or not, but
it's not sold out, but we have sold several tickets. We hope to sell it out.
Okay,
gotcha.
Okay.
We'll make sure these are going to be lower level. They'll be premium.
So they're going to be good ones. And it's you know what? We used to do some stuff in the Mandalay Event Center back in the day. And when BYU was in previous leagues before they went independent. That's a great place to watch a basketball game, right? That Mandalay Event Center it'll be set up so this will be a real fun event, right?
Yeah, and the wave pool out back is still summer down there, right? You still go swimming.
There we go. And the arena, to your point, you know, Las Vegas Aces won the WNBA championship. That's their home court. I mean, it's a beautiful facility to play basketball in. So it should be fun. And the event is not sold out. They can buy tickets at sportsnetworkllc.com or AXS.com online, either way. But we would, we hope to have several more fans join us. And so we make sure they get lower bowl seats.
So I misspoke. It's not sold out, but we want to sell out for this event. Sportsnetworkllc.com is where you can get tickets. And what was the other one? Tell us that one again, Ernie.
AXS.com.
AXS.com, where you can get tickets to this event at the Mandalay Event Center. It should be a fun one. Hey, Creighton's 21, but they were 7 last week.
Yeah, they kind of hit a couple, and BYU's had a couple of bumps after a couple of big moments, and it's a great time to get those two together and see what happens.
Yeah, let's get it on Saturday night.
John, like I've covered a lot of boxing fights at Mandalay Bay. You sound like you're ready to get these two in the ring. Ernie Kuiper is the president of Sports Network LLC. Hey, thank you for your help with us. Thanks for coming on the show. Good luck Saturday night. Safe travels from Memphis. We'll all see you in Vegas for those who are going to be at the game, and happy holidays from the Wise Guys.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks for
Appreciate
joining us,
it.
Ernie. We appreciate it.
And you're right. Vegas is full of BYU fans, and they will see you
They'll fill
Saturday
that place
night.
up Saturday night.
We're excited to see the blue. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Ernie Kuiper has made a living pulling tournaments together like this one. And as he mentioned, there's a handful of teams, but the ones that matter to us is BYU and Creighton. That's Saturday night. Tomorrow night, BYU's at home against Utah Valley on BYU TV at 9 Eastern Time, 7 Mountain, with a pregame show starting at 8 Eastern and 6 Mountain Time as the Cougars look to get their groove back after just a disappointing loss to South Dakota Saturday up at Vivint Arena.
They decided they were going to try to have the same formula they did in the Dayton game, where they're going to have a miraculous comeback, and they actually had a shot to win the game with the ball in their hands at the end, as you and I were calling it.
Yeah, why did Rudy shoot a 3? Why didn't he just go right to the rim? Get fouled.
So you know what? You know what I still haven't figured out? It was very confusing because on the scoreboard in the arena, it had that BYU had a timeout left. But I guess they didn't. I don't think they had a timeout left. And
yeah, Carolyn, our statistician, said no timeout.
She said no timeout. The scoreboard said there was a timeout.
And there was a lot of things going on with the officials.
So it's confusing. So I was thinking, man, if they got a timeout, why not push the ball up the floor, call a timeout, and have a side out of bounds play to set up the play that you want? Sometimes you don't want to use the timeout because the other teams think. But then we found out afterwards, Carolyn, who's usually right on top of it, was saying, no, they didn't have a timeout. So they needed Rudy to make a great decision. You needed your guys to make a great decision, and you're only down by 1.
And he decided to pop a 3.
So my feeling is there was enough time to drive all the way to the rim or drive partway to the rim, and if you get doubled, you kick it to somebody to shoot a wide open. Because when you're dribbling right to left as a right-hander and trying to shoot a pull-up 3, that's a tough shot.
Yeah.
So
Michael Rucker of the Chicago Cubs is going to join us in just a few minutes.
And we should say that Dr. Ketch got that last set of
good job, Dr. Ketch.
Tickets. So nice job, Dr. Ketch.
We got another pair to give out a little later on.
Yep.
So
we'll
hang
give
with
you one
us
more
there.
pair a little bit.
So Utah Valley comes in 4-4. BYU's 5-4. Mark Pope coached 4 years at UVU before coming over to BYU, now in his 4th year. And then Mark Madsen, one of our good friends, is in his 4th season at UVU. Wolverines coming off a nice win over Long Beach State Saturday night, 88-78. This is going to be a highly competitive, spirited game. And remember, Utah Valley beat BYU last year in Orem. First time they've ever defeated a nationally ranked team. BYU's number 12. But Gavin Baxter went down early, and the Cougars had no center. And Fardaz Amak had like 24 points and 25 rebounds. And they beat them in overtime.
And this is a UVU team that they're 4-4 right now, but they're not afraid to play anybody. UVU's not, and they've been in. So at Utah State they lose 58-75. You're like, oh, maybe they're not as good this year. Then they rip off a couple of wins against Western Colorado and Northern Arizona where they win. Then they go to Wake Forest. So they're at Wake Forest. You think, okay, they lost at Utah State. Wake Forest is going to blow them out of the gym. Oh no. They take Wake Forest to overtime and lose 68-65 on the road in the ACC. So now I'm going, okay, I notice. I see you, UVU. Things are coming together. Then they have an overtime loss to Morgan State. Then they beat Green Bay 79-56 handily. They go to Boise State and lose 87-69. Then they come back against Long Beach State. It's a pretty solid program, and they win handily 88-78, and they shoot lights out. And it's almost like everything comes together, and I'm thinking that's how it seems like it is for BYU. This is a team with a lot of new faces, with some returning guys, and it feels to me like they're coming off of a pretty momentum-building win where they shot the ball well. So we'll see what happens. Latrey Darthard had 7 threes in that game, and they got size inside. They got another 7-footer. Mark seems to be able to. Yeah, Mark seems to be able to go find those 7-footers, and he's playing well, way above the rim. You got Trey Woodbury, who's a preseason all-conference level guy, a 6'4" shooting guard that's a senior that really knows what he's doing. He's a double-double waiting to happen out there. So this is a talented team that comes in. In my opinion, this team's got more talent in South Dakota, so BYU's going to have to up their game. It does help that they're at home. It's
going to be a fun one. Tomorrow night on BYU TV. Earlier today, the women's team beat Utah State up in Logan 64-54. Lauren Gustin, 11 points, 10 rebounds. Keeps her streak of double-doubles alive and to 9. School record held by Kreshmer Chosic is 10. Cougars host Utah Saturday night, 5 o'clock Mountain Time on BYU TV. We'll see if she can set the record or tie it against the Utes and then try to break it in their game next week. Hey, a shout-out to Mike Weir. He's been named the captain of the international team of the 2024 President's Cup. First time a BYU alum's had such an honor. I put a call into Weir. We're going to get him on the Wise Guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that'll be fun.
Love to talk to Weirsy on that.
Won the Masters in 2003.
You gave the hoops update. Did you give the NCAA volleyball update?
No.
Well, let's give that. Let's talk about NCAA volleyball. BYU defeated James Madison last Friday in the first round in straight sets, and then were eliminated by number 2 seed Pittsburgh on Saturday in straight sets. This is a really, really young Cougar volleyball team. They finished the season at 22-7. Watch out next season when everybody's back.
Yeah, for sure. Our next guest tonight on the Wise Guys is a pitcher for the Chicago Cubs, who this spring will begin his 7th season in professional baseball. The former BYU star went 16-1 as a Cougar before the Cubs picked him up in the 11th round of the 2016 draft. It's a pleasure to welcome to the Wise Guys the only BYU Cougar currently on a 40-man roster in Major League Baseball, the great Michael Rucker. Michael, good evening.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Doing great. Hey, Michael, I don't know if you know this, but like Dave McCann's team is the Cubs and has been
for
forever.
Sure.
He knows.
And great times, but also even when they're awful, he is a diehard. And to have the lone Major League Baseball player on the Cubs for Dave is just it's a huge deal.
Hey, I text him after he pitches. He's had a great season. It's fun to text him and get an answer back going, guys, this is from one of the Cubs right here, and you're never too old to be a kid around Major League Baseball. How much of the offseason do you need before you get the itch to get back?
So I take about a month at least to just completely rest, not even think about baseball. Just need that after a 162 game season. It's super important to be able to just have that time to relax, spend time with family. But yeah, I mean, once Thanksgiving starts rolling around and spring's right around the corner, so it's time to start locking in, and it's kind of fun to follow the off season with all the hot stove stuff. And we got news earlier today about Cody Bellinger signing with the Cubs, so that's going to be exciting. Former MVP with us, and then just they had the MLB lottery draft tonight as well.
Right.
So it's kind of been a fun off season to follow and watch.
Getting Bellinger, every pitcher on the pitching staff should be thrilled about that because that's more runs on the board for your offense.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he can swing a good bat. He covers a lot of positions well. Center field, he's had experience first base too. So, I know that the Cubs are really excited. I'm really excited to have him on our team. It's a great addition, I think.
So you pitched in 41 games, 54.2 innings. You go 3-1 with an ERA of 3.95. What's the last thing manager David Ross told you as you went into the offseason? What did he say he wanted to see out of you in the offseason?
I remember the very last thing he said was actually, so we finished up in Cincinnati, and as we're getting on the plane, I'm headed back to my seat. You go by all the coaches that are sitting kind of in like the first class type seats, and they're like, "Attaboy, Rut, way to get below a 4 ERA." So it's kind of been a joke with me and a couple of teammates who over the last week of the season were like really trying to get our stats where we wanted it to be. And so when anybody asks what kind of ERA we had, I had a 3 something.
Nice.
And it's kind of fun to joke about, but we had a good meeting. Me, Dave Ross, our pitching coach, Tommy Hodavy, talked about just some of the things that I've done well, some of the growth that I've had over the course of this season compared to last, and then just kind of some of the things that, need to work on, polish up, just so I can, continue to be a regular counted on piece, for the Chicago Cubs.
I like this stat. You had 50 strikeouts among the 54 innings and only allowed 8 home runs. Who was the furthest home run hit off of you? Who did it, and what pitch was it?
Oh, this year? I'd have to go. I know who hit the hardest home run.
Who's that?
I think Rowdy Tellez got me pretty good.
And when he gets you pretty good, is there a sound that a pitcher hears where you just know it's gone?
Yeah, I didn't even turn around. I don't.
Oh, no.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know it, and you can see him looking at it. Yeah, but no, I got him back the next 2 times I faced him. I'm pretty sure I punched him out. So
Nice. See, and
not that. That was actually, I think, the Rowdy Tellez home run that I gave up was the inning that I had 4 strikeouts in 1 inning as well.
Really?
So that was a wild kind of inning, so to speak. But yeah.
How do you get 4 strikeouts in an inning?
So if you on the 3rd strike, if it's dropped, like if a batter swings at it and the guy beats ball to first base, they're safe.
They're safe.
So I get a strikeout, but he's safe.
Contreras couldn't catch the ball.
So is that an error on the catcher? Is it E?
No, it's a wild pitch because I threw a slider in the dirt. The guy swung at it, so it's kind of like an unwritten rule. If the ball hits the dirt first, it like the catcher really can't do that much about it. At least that's what the scorers say.
So it's a wild pitch, but do you still statistically get the strikeout?
Yeah, statistically you get the strikeout, but it goes as a wild pitch. So let's say like if that guy's on first and he scores later on, like it's an earned run. So it's like kind of one of those weird, one of the many funny baseball rules that there
after all of these years covering all these sports. That's news to me. Did you know that, Dave?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could get. I didn't know that you got credit for a strikeout on that. I thought it was just a wild pitch.
4 Ks in an inning doesn't happen very often.
No,
you should shout at Contreras to catch the ball back there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was Jan Gomes. So
it was.
But I mean, I've worked well with all of our catchers. I love them. I mean, what are you going to do with a slider that's like, hitting right off the plate? But 4 strikeouts in an inning. That's
cool.
Pretty best. So Dave asked you about. Cool. Dave asked you. I don't know why he's thinking the negative thing. Like, who hit the furthest home run?
Because it's interesting.
What's your favorite strikeout of the year? Like, what was there a particular strikeout where you were like, that was money, and I'll remember that?
Yeah, I would say probably like my most noteworthy strikeout is probably Paul Goldschmidt. So I came in, our starter was, he'd gone through like 4 innings. We're up on the Cardinals, 2-0. He was getting a little tired. Had runners on first and second. So I came in, I had to face Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and then I think it was Brandon Donovan was the third hole hitter. It was a lefty. But yeah, getting Goldschmidt, MVP right off the gate, right out of the bullpen, and then striking them out just to set the tone to get the rest of the 3 outs to our 2-run lead. That was pretty noteworthy for me.
That's awesome.
Cubs pitcher, former BYU Cougar Michael Ruckers on the Wise Guys tonight. So what's it like to stand on the mound at Wrigley Field, Dodger Stadium, or Yankee Stadium and throw against the best hitters in the world?
Yeah, they're all like super unique venues. I always describe Wrigley Field to people as like a time capsule of baseball. Just to be able to see like the seats, they're not as like steep. They go farther back, like into the concourse. And then just to be able to like turn around, you see the ivy, the old school scoreboard in center field. That's just super iconic. It's an awesome place, like an awesome environment to be able to play baseball. Dodger Stadium, just the history of it and just how massive it is. And, when they get a full crowd and, somebody hits a home run, it's electric there. With their, 2 big market teams with fan bases that are really passionate about their teams. It's really fun to play there. And then Yankee Stadium is probably the most hostile of the 3 that you mentioned. But still a really like fun, just really cool place to play. And that was a place that I was really excited to be able to step on a mound and pitch there as well.
That's a cool experience. And a kind of a side note, aren't you glad you don't have to play in New York? Because not only are they hostile to the opponent, but they're hostile to their own people. They loved Zach Wilson a few weeks ago. Now they hate him. It's not good.
I know. Yeah.
It's a tough place to play,
New York,
man.
New York fans are kind of. I actually, for one of our trips, we kind of as a theme, we were wearing either like college or NFL jerseys, and I had a Zach Wilson BYU jersey that I wore, and being earlier in the season, I think it was like right before he had his knee injury in the preseason, and it was at the New York Mets actually, but they were the clubhouse guys are like, oh, that's awesome, that's the best jersey that I've seen, blah blah blah. So yeah, I mean it's unfortunate. I like Zach. I think he plays with a good swagger. Like he's always been fun and dynamic to watch. I've been a fan of his game, and liked watching him when he was at BYU for sure.
He'll get it back. He'll get it stuff back.
He'll get another opportunity.
He will, and he'll get it back, and they'll love him again. That's just New York fan. I grew up in New York, so I can pick on them.
Okay.
They're tough fans. So I'm going to ask you about a Yankee. So Aaron Judge, he set the American League record with 63 home runs. Walk us through how you approached him when he came to bat.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun. Like, so him and I actually have the same agent. We're both with PSI Sports, so it's kind of been fun.
Tell him you want the same money.
Season.
You want the same money he's about to get.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's been a little bit fun, just kind of having maybe just a little bit more behind the scenes from just kind of asking my agent like, oh, how are things going with that, or it's a little bit fun to follow. But I mean, Aaron Judge is by far just the largest human being that I've seen in a batter's box. Yeah, so it's very intimidating. And this past year, I was coming in after a starter that had given up 6 home runs to the Yankees.
Yeah.
And so, my first inning kind of got knocked around a little bit, got to the point where I'd already given up 1 run, and I had bases loaded with 1 out and Aaron Judge at the plate.
Oh no.
So
Perfect scenario.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect scenario. Yankees fans are just like going wild. They're like, oh, he's rooting for a grand slam, which I'm like, no, he's the competitor in me is saying, no, not today. But I think for the longest time, and I think still, like the one no on the scouting report is like, don't throw him fastballs up. He will crush a fastball up. That is his bread and butter. That is what he is going to annihilate. But sometimes your pitches are feeling all right, and that guy knows the same scouting report. So I decided, because I'm usually like a heavy like spin guy, and thinking, bases loaded, he's not going to challenge me with the fastball. So I threw him first pitch fastball up out of the zone just by a little bit, got a swing and miss, and then just tried to get, because he has such big arms.
Yeah.
Just tried to jam him and hit a fly ball to right field, as he often will do, or try to, just with how short that porch is over in right field. Ended up getting a sac fly, but yeah, I mean, he's just able to cover so much of the plate, and just the year that he had this past year was incredible. So it'll be interesting to see exactly where he lands.
Now we should note that after he did his thing, Giancarlo Stanton comes up. The week before, he was the All-Star Game MVP, and you struck him out.
Yes.
And you struck him out with your last 2 pitches he didn't even swing at. So you had that going for you.
Yeah, no, it was kind of a thing that, just trying to rise the cage. I know that, our bullpen had pitched a lot the day before. We had a starter that was injured and got pulled out in the 3rd inning. They ended up playing 12 innings. So there wasn't really a whole lot of availability in the pen. So, I had to play that long man type role, pitch, 3 innings, cover that amount so that guys could get a little bit of extra rest in the bullpen. But yeah, I mean, when you have a plan and you execute, it's the best thing you can hope for.
My favorite part about that, Michael, my favorite part about that whole story is you acknowledged to us that you understood the gravity of the situation. It's like, crap, 1 out, bases loaded. Aaron Judge is on the mound. I'm in Yankee Stadium, and everybody's expecting him to hit a grand slam. And you simply said, not today. I love that. Not today, Aaron Judge, and you can hit a sac fly to right field, and we're going to get out of this. I love that.
And you came at him with a fastball right against the scouting report.
You challenged him with what he would not expect, which I love. I love that.
You have to. The pitcher versus batter, just dichotomy, that battle is just like so intense. I think it's like one of the best things in sports is just, that like chess game between the pitcher and the hitter, and having the catcher's input as well. That anticipation of, what's going to happen pitch to pitch, and just the strategy of it. I just love it. Love baseball for that.
Well, we talked about Aaron Judge. Is there anyone else? Maybe it's him, but is there another hitter in baseball that commands the most respect from you when you face a batter? Or is there maybe somebody you haven't faced that you're just like, okay, that guy's the best hitter in baseball?
Yeah, I haven't really pitched a whole lot, against American League teams, but when there's one guy that I haven't faced that I'm just been really impressed with in the way that he's been able to just put bat on ball is Jose Ramirez. He's third baseman for the Cleveland Guardians, and switch hitting third baseman. They just signed him to an extension, but he's just to call a third baseman scrappy is a little bit weird, but just that's kind of like his demeanor or attitude in the box is, I'm not going to go down swinging, or I'm not going to go down without getting a piece of this ball. So just to watch him and how he, just his bat to ball skills are insane.
You want him though, right? You want him.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on my team. He's locked up for, next 3, 4, 5 years.
What I mean is you want to face him in the playoffs, right? You want him. You'd like to challenge him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think that's what every pitcher wants, is to be able to have that chance to be given the ball in a high pressure, high leverage situation, face the, best guy on the other team and be able to get him out. There's no better feeling than that.
Wrote an article in the Deseret News, which we'll post on our live stream, about the many times that you went back and forth from the Cubs to the AAA Iowa Cubs over the course of this last summer. It's not nearly as glamorous of a lifestyle as it appears on television, is it?
To shuttle back from AAA to the big leagues, yeah, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, to be told that, we like you, but we have this guy that thinks either playing better than you, or you need some more time to develop, or whatever the reason or case might be for going down. It's always a hard pill to swallow, but knowing that there is that opportunity to be able to prove myself, to continue to pitch and earn a call up. I was able to do that a couple times this year, and that's what it's all about. Everybody in AAA just trying to fight and get back. It's one thing to make it to the big leagues. It's another whole thing to stay. And so that's kind of been, it's challenging, I would say, as a relief pitcher, and just how much churn and turnover, just trying to keep arms fresh and all that. But just be able to have those opportunities and make them count, as a young pitcher like myself,
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, former BYU pitcher Michael Rucker went 16-1 as a Cougar before being drafted by the Chicago Cubs. He's on the Wise Guys with us tonight. So, Michael, this road you're on started as a 10-year-old pitcher in the Bonnie Lake Summer Little League in Taps, Washington. Back then, you threw a curveball that no one could hit, and you're still throwing that curve, right?
Yeah. No, it was. From coach pitch and playing, Bonnie Lake Sumner Little League, which they actually had a chance to go to Williamsport this past year, represent the Northwest region. So that was kind of cool and fun to watch. But yeah, still throwing pretty much same curveball grip that I've been throwing since then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It works for you. So in your arsenal of pitches, there's the curve, the fastball. What else?
Slider and changeup.
Slider and changeup. So if you were to face,
And then I'm mixing a cutter too.
Oh.
That's kind of been a little bit of a newer pitch.
if you were to face Blaine in the batter's box,
Oh yeah, here we go.
how would you approach him with your pitches?
Are you a righty or a lefty?
I'm a righty.
And
Okay.
he's a righty, and he talks a lot too. So he's probably talking at you before he gets you into the
Oh yeah,
batter's box.
I'll be talking to you as I'm stepping. I'll talk to the catcher too.
Well, I'll probably brush you a little bit inside, just let you know, like,
Send a
okay,
message.
here's what that looks like, and then get you stepping off that plate maybe a little bit, and then just try to dot that outside corner, throw a little slider off that fastball that I'm gonna dot on the outside corner. Hopefully get you in 3 pitches.
Yeah,
Three
I think
pitches.
He would get me in 3. I can't hit anymore.
What would Blaine have to do for you to just pelt him right in the back?
Anymore.
To put it right in the middle of his back, what would he have to do?
Throw it right at me. What would I have to say?
I'd have to get a sign from the catcher. There had to, like, you might have slid into Nico Horner at shortstop and tore his leg up or something the inning before or something. I don't know.
And then I would get a message.
So is that a thing where the catcher will signal to you that it's time to hit this guy?
Well, I think that there's just kind of a level of, I guess, like respect or understanding, just with how the game is supposed to be played.
Yeah.
I would say, like, in terms of pitching inside, it's going to happen. People are going to get hit just because of the nature of it. But if you're going to pitch inside, you better execute it, or people, like, it's not fun getting hit by a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
No, I can't imagine.
I've been hit as a pitcher standing in the batter's box by fastball in professional baseball, and that did not feel good. And I've also been hit by comebackers, and that does not feel good either.
No.
So
I thought it was interesting, Blaine, that he said he was coming right inside to brush you back a little bit, right with the first pitch.
Which I appreciate. I respect that a lot. So your fastball, that high inside fastball, what velocity is that coming at? Is that 95, 96?
Yeah, so I'd say my average fastball this year is around 95. I've gotten it up to as high as 98 before.
That's some smoke.
That's some smoke coming right at you. Hey, you start your career at Gonzaga. You decide to transfer to BYU in 2014 because of a girl. Mm-hmm. That decision not only leads to your marriage to Sydney, a conversion to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but it also leads you to the Cubs after you go 16-1 over 2 seasons at BYU. What a decision to leave Spokane to come to BYU and look at all that's happened.
Yeah, that was actually something that I had the chance to kind of like talk about a little bit with my family over kind of like Thanksgiving, just to like think back and reflect on just kind of how wild of a journey it's been for me. Just to go from Gonzaga, which was a good baseball school, but just kind of a little bit of an unhealthy situation, I guess you could say, for me in school. And, BYU was definitely one that I was considering out of the gate, out of high school. And, just basically after giving Gonzaga a year to kind of try it out, realized that Gonzaga was not the place that I was going to spend, the rest of my 4 years. And I wasn't going to be happy there for the rest of my four-year college time. So it was time to make the switch. And my girlfriend, who's now my wife, is there. There's a lot of things that made that decision a lot easier. Mike Littlewood, who's the coach at the time, just being completely welcoming, giving me a chance to be able to pitch in high leverage situations, earn well, in college baseball, most schools call it the Friday night starter is the one that pitches the first on weekend, but BYU, it's the Thursday night starter. So being able to be that Thursday night starter for the Cougs and just have that opportunity to be able to pitch in the West Coast Conference and against in front of scouts to and I just get my name out there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
to picture myself then and then look at where I'm at now is just it's just a wild journey for sure.
So did Sid know? Now you dated from high school on, but when you called and told her I'm coming to BYU, did she know pretty much? Well, I guess we're going to be getting married at some point. Did she know that was going to happen as you packed up to come to Provo, even though you hadn't asked her yet?
Or did she make you earn it?
I mean, we had been pretty like serious in our relationship, even doing long distance. Like long distance is hard for anybody that's been in a long distance relationship. Like I salute you. Like I know what you're going through. It's super tough and difficult, but I knew that I had found the right woman in my life, the right partner, and I was gonna do what I could to make sure that was a partnership that that would last. And part of that is going to BYU. I think there was just so much going on at that time of my life. I wasn't even like thinking that. It was just like, okay, what do I have this hour, like this next hour or this next day? Now I kind of have a little bit of the luxury to plan ahead, but as a 19-year-old kid, just everything was just like right here, right now, not thinking about too much about the future. Obviously getting married is something that we'd both talked about, both wanted to do. But yeah, having going to the same school, that just made it that much easier.
Yeah, sure.
So every time we hear the question, who elopes and gets married in Laie, Hawaii, Tempo, we just tell them, well, the Ruckers do that. and you did it August 20th, 2014, right?
Yeah, we did. So at that point in time, from when you are baptized a new member of the church, which I had been a year and 2 days prior to when we decided to get married in Hawaii. We made that decision. Like it was the perfect time for me. It was right after I had got done with summer baseball. So a lot of times, like after the college season is done, players will go and play like a summer collegiate baseball season. You may have heard of the Cape Cod League, or there's some other summer baseball leagues that are around. They usually play for a month or two, all across the country. But it was between that and then when school started.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the perfect time that we had kind of spaced out for that. And, being a convert to the church and my parents not being members, they were not going to be able to, observe ordinance taking place in the temple. So a little bit out of fairness, a little bit out of simplicity, we decided to go to Hawaii, and we had honeymoon and wedding and all that in Hawaii. It was a place that, just like in terms of like destinations, like how beautiful to do all that stuff in Hawaii.
Yeah, you bet.
But yeah, I mean, her parents knew about it. My parents knew about it. It was just like, it was just me and my wife, and we were there in Hawaii, and we had in the sailing room just different temple workers that were there that were witnesses. And I think at the time they kind of like maybe felt bad, or they didn't. I don't think they like quite understood the circumstances of why we were doing what we're doing. It's it's certainly unique, but they actually had like thrown like a little reception for us, like after we were sealed, and we're like, oh, like we actually like have to take pictures, like we paid for this photographer, like we stayed and like
we're gonna go eat at Seven Guys.
So it was we were really poor at the time, but we had this like little hut thing on the beach that we rented for super cheap, and really the only thing that we had paid for was a photographer, just to be able to to capture what we had done. But yeah, the nice people of Hawaii that set up a little.
Poor is just a state of mind. You guys were wealthy and in love because you had all kinds of stuff. We got a picture up of you in Sydney that folks can see.
Now, Sydney told me a story, and I included it in that article, which was interesting. So you go and you get elope and get married there, and just kind of the people around you there, complete strangers, rally around you. Then when you make your Major League debut at Nationals Park, it all happened so fast that you didn't have time for any family to come watch you make your first Major League appearance. And so Sid's up there sitting with the crowd, and she sees you walk out, and she starts crying. And then a guy from a few rows over goes, "Is that your husband down there?" And she said yes. And then all of a sudden the section starts cheering for you, even though they're wearing their national shirts, because you're pitching for the Cubs. I mean, how ironic that strangers were there to support you as you were married, and then a group of strangers are there to support Sydney as she's watching you make your Major League Baseball debut.
Yeah, it's really just, you perfectly painted that parallel, but just to have like a couple of the biggest moments in my life to, just the circumstances around it, like not being able to have family, like it's a bummer, but it happened. They're able to watch on TV. They've been to several games since. But yeah, just that it kind of, I guess, puts a little bit more faith in humanity for me.
Yeah.
That there are, nice, like random people that, before, moments before, had no idea who you are, but the next moment, they're rooting for you, cheering for you, wanting the best for you. I don't know, and I probably am not hoping to have too many strangers in the hospital room for the birth of my first child.
No, don't even say that. We don't want to jinx that.
But that'd probably be the next big life moment. But yeah.
The fact that those two parallels are there, the uniqueness makes it memorable, and it's just cool. It really is cool that those two parallels. So, the thing I respect about Michael is that he made the right decision. His story's a lot like Kellen Moore's. And Kellen's from Prosser, Washington, and he dated an LDS girl his whole life, Julie Wilson. She came down to BYU, tried to convince him to come. Oh no, he went to Boise State and was a 3-time All-American and went to the NFL. But he finally decided to get baptized and do the right thing. But Michael made the decision quicker to get to BYU. Yeah. So we respect Michael more than Kellen.
And it's been fun. I've had a chance to call your games on BYU TV, and just a fantastic pitcher, better human being, and I'm just so glad you're not on the White Sox. So none of this interview has to say, and good luck with the White Sox. We don't even have to go there, which is awesome. All right, Blaine's got 5 quick questions for you.
You just answer these. Just the first thing that comes to your mind, so everybody gets to know you a little bit better. What's your favorite sports movie?
The one that comes to mind is so I'm not a big movie guy personally, but I think Longest Yard is hilarious.
Oh,
The Longest Yard.
That's the first one that's done that. Actually, my son Gavin would probably say, "Yep, Longest Yard." It's hilarious. Okay, favorite singer or band?
So I've been on my workout playlist. I have a lot of Jack Harlow.
Oh, all right. I don't think anybody said Jack Harlow. I like Jack Harlow.
I don't know who it is, but I'm sure he's great.
I'll let you listen to some later. I got some on my plate. Okay, favorite breakfast cereal?
Oh, I'm going to go with Cocoa Puffs.
Yes. See, so we're on a great streak. Just so you know, Michael, anybody that does like a healthy cereal, we just make fun of them. Because none of us. Yeah.
It's a good cereal. Doesn't have to be good for you.
No, we want sugar cereal.
We work out. We can eat whatever we want for breakfast.
Yep.
There you go.
Glenn Kozlowski, one of the all-time great receivers, was on for BYU, also with the Chicago Bears. He was on. His was Captain Crunch. We respected that. We also respect Cocoa Puffs.
The street cred went way up.
So, favorite Major League Baseball batter to strike out?
See, I'm going to answer this maybe a little bit differently
Okay.
than maybe what you're expecting.
We were expecting to shout out Bryce Harper, but we're not.
I think that if I had, which I obviously wouldn't have the chance, but I think striking out Babe Ruth would be so cool.
Okay. So that's of all time, that would be your favorite person.
And Michael, that's safe. That's a safe answer too, because you're not going to face Babe Ruth in this upcoming season.
So
but you might face somebody
Dave
else.
thought you might go Bryce Harper.
I thought you might just shout Bryce Harper and would have we'll have two great Latter-day Saints duking it out.
The Cubs haven't let me face him, so I don't know.
And he's out with
they don't want that that clash of Mormonism.
No, they don't want that.
That would be too much.
I don't know.
It could cause all kinds of problems.
You know, we had that last week or a week and a half ago. BYU played Stanford, and Jaron Hall and Tanner McKee, two returned missionaries, duking it out on national TV at that level of football for the very first time at quarterback. That was kind of cool.
And both NFL prospects.
Yeah.
So,
But when you and Harper go head-to-head, my money's on you, by the way. And then he had Tommy John surgery, so he's going to miss a whole lot of the season coming up. But I think he's supposed to be back, in July, maybe August?
With that being said, as a DH, he was awesome for them. So it was fun to watch.
If you do ever get a chance to face him, please just throw a high inside fastball like you were going to do to me, just to brush him back. And that'll be the signal to me that you want to face him. And
you might take that to the short porch if you can get something inside.
Okay. And last question, your favorite BYU memory. And it doesn't have to be a baseball memory. It could be any memory of BYU, just your favorite memory of your time at BYU.
Probably one of my more memorable times is the first time I ever stepped on BYU campus. It was just I was actually at a camp, a baseball camp, and my dad was with me. It was a Sunday. We were just going from our hotel. The camp was the next day over the course of summer, and just to be able to go on the campus and just experience it for the first time. It was just, could just tell then that it was a special place to be able to go up the steps. I wouldn't realize how many times I'd have to go up the steps to get up to campus. But yeah, I just remember how special that was. And, I look back at my time at BYU and just think nothing but great memories.
That's awesome.
Just to be able to time to connect with, teammates, coaches, all the guys and ladies that I had, shared classes with. And it was just a place where, I really, grew into the man that I am today. So super grateful for my experiences at BYU.
The Cubs open the 2023 season Thursday, March 30th against Milwaukee at Wrigley Field. We hope to see you on the mound that day. Enjoy your break with Sydney. Best of luck with the coming season, but don't think about it yet. Just give yourself a few more weeks, and then you can start thinking about it. And we want you to commit to coming back on the show after your firstborn is born, whenever that occurs, because then your life will have been the life will have been turned upside down, and we want to talk to you about that.
I do not want to hear about any strangers in that room, please. So. Thanks for coming on.
Fingers crossed. No guarantees. But.
Hey, say hi to Sydney and your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you again for being with us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Blaine.
You got it. The great Michael Rucker.
You having me.
You got it. Chicago Cubs pitcher. Pitched a lot this past season. He's going to pitch a lot more coming up because he goes in and he gets out. He usually comes in the sixth inning, the seventh inning. He gets outs and doesn't give up very many runs. Under 4, 3-ish, as I think was the quote.
You think about it, appeared in 41 games for the Cubs this last year. So he's getting a lot of work and establishing himself. So I can't wait to see him face Bryce. I can't wait for that.
And another good season or two, and then he's up for some serious money.
Right. Which we're hoping for him. Yeah. For Sydney. Absolutely.
What a great night with Glenn Kozlowski and Michael Rucker on our show. Ty Detmer is going to join us next week on the Wise Guys, and Mark Durant's going to be here with us as well as we grow this show worldwide.
Everybody follow Mark Durant on Twitter this week until next week, and then you'll even enjoy it more next week because he's one of the great Twitter follows.
In our final 6 minutes, before we do a couple of picks and this day in history, let's go back to what we started talking about at the beginning with Glenn Kozlowski and the transfer portal. Right. And I'm just going to ask you a question that Cougar Nation wants to know, why is Jacob Conover in the transfer portal?
Yeah, and so everybody's like, oh, there must be something wrong. And so Jacob Conover's been here 3 years, right? And over a period of 3 years, the coaching staff and Jacob are going to figure out whether or not he's a fit for this offense and whether or not they think he's the guy they're going to move forward with. And obviously after 3 years, it's not the case, right? He's not going to be. So there's nothing behind the scenes on it.
It just didn't work out.
Yeah, it didn't work out. He must not feel like they feel like he's the guy. Because if he felt like he was the starter moving forward and it was his job, he wouldn't be transferring, right? And BYU must not feel like he is, or they would have indicated to him, no, you don't need to leave, you're the guy.
Yeah.
So mutually what happens is you go, you know what? It's not a great fit right here. I know they think the world of him. Jake's a great human being. And so this is the nature of college football now. And think about it. Quarterbacks are playing musical chairs all over the country, and BYU is going to get somebody out of the transfer portal that's going to come in,
right?
That's going to compete for that job this next year. And so that's the nature of how things work now, especially with the transfer portal out there and no penalty for transferring. And when somebody goes, you got to thank them for the time that they've been here. He's been one incredible human being while he's been here, and you wish him the very best. You want Jacob Conover to have a phenomenal success wherever he goes, and hopefully he finds a place in an offense that fits his skill set the best, where he can thrive and do great things. That's it. That's all there is to it.
A few more guys announced they're leaving. Defensive end Logan Fano, who tore his ACL in spring, so we never actually saw him in a uniform. Offensive lineman Campbell Barrington, who's been hurt this year. Yeah. Wide receiver Terrence Fall, all in the portal. Who's not in the portal, 3 All-Americans, freshman All-Americans announced today with Micah Harper, Cody Epps, offensive lineman Kingsley Suamataia.
Great. That was great work with that last name, by the way.
Thank you. 3 big pieces that are going to the Big 12 with BYU.
Right. And here's what people are going to have to get used to. There's going to be a list of, 3, 6, 9 every year moving forward. And there's also going to be a list of 3, 6, 9 coming in. That's the nature of college football. And there's a lot of things that influence that. It's playing time and thinking you can get more someplace else. It's the right fit or not the right fit. It's NIL opportunities, perhaps because and this is something that does concern me. I believe, and I don't have any specifics to throw out there, but there are folks out there in different and tied to different programs that are using NIL deals to try to recruit people away all the time at this point.
Friends of the program can call and say, I can get you more money over here.
What are you getting there? I'm not saying that's happening with anybody that's going with BYU right now. I don't think that's the case, but I'm hearing about you have an issue right now where NIL is out there. The NCAA hasn't really wrapped its arms around it. It's just a free-for-all for right now. And I think in the long term, there will be some guidelines that are put around it as it gets more and more out of hand. But the whole idea that if a high school senior quarterback at Miami is getting $9 million, you telling me that behind the scenes there aren't programs out there going, hey, you're only getting $30,000 at this is a hypothetical, please, everyone. You're only getting $30,000 at BYU. Do you know what? We could probably get you 100 here.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see transfers because of NIL moving forward, and I don't think I like that.
No,
I don't think
especially if it works.
Yeah.
Like a program goes, look, we bought these guys. Remember Nick Saban kind of accused Texas A&M of buying every one of their recruits. It might not have been cash payments, but he wasn't wrong.
Right, and
he wasn't wrong. It's enticed with NIL.
The problem is back in the day, and I'm not talking that long ago, 5 years ago, you couldn't buy players away legally.
Yeah.
Now there's not a lot of guidelines around that, and so technically, things could go to the highest bidder at this point in the recruiting process, whether it's for current players in the transfer portal or for players coming out of high school. I don't think I like that. I want some more guidance from the NCAA.
This might be just what brings Jerry Tarkanian back from the dead. Just so we can say, I told you so.
Everything Jerry Tarkanian did back in the day
it's all on the table now. And the Final Four is going to Vegas.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like all the cows are out of the barn, as John Robinson used to say.
Yep.
Our college football picks, we both went 5-3 last week.
Yeah.
We've had pretty good seasons. Army-Navy is the only college game coming up on Saturday. Who do you like?
I respect that game so much. I love that game. I cannot go against my guy, Ken Niumatalolo, and Navy.
Yeah, I agree with you. And neither can throw the ball if their life depended on it. But I think, I'm going to go because I like the coach.
We'll both go with Navy.
Cougars in the NFL. Zach Wilson still waiting for his chance to get back in.
He'll get back in there.
They're taking the Bills on. That's going to be a tough one for the backup.
And here's the thing that's ironic for me. So the Bills, their quarterback is considered one of the best quarterbacks in football. Did people remember that in his first 2 seasons, he had the lowest completion percentage of any quarterback in the National Football League?
Clearly the Jets don't remember.
But the Buffalo Bills are a little more patient with their guys than the New York Jets are. I'll just say that at this point. Okay?
Come on, Jets.
Come on, Jets.
Sione Takitaki out for the season with an ACL.
I just heard that.
Bummed.
I'm heartbroken for Sione because he's playing so well and he's such a good guy. And so Sione out. The Vikings against Jamal Williams and the Lions, 14 touchdowns, is too shy of breaking. Do I dare even say Barry
well, he needs
Sanders'
two to tie, one more to break.
Yes,
that's for single season touchdowns in Lions history.
Unbelievable.
And he
leads the league in
you can't stop him at the goal line.
Yeah.
Although I traded him to Andrew.
So, somebody from Detroit tweeted out the three certainties in life. Death, taxes, and Jamal Williams scoring a touchdown.
14 of them. That's a lot. Fred Warner is going to be at home this weekend to take on the Buccaneers. He's so fun to watch play linebacker.
And the Panthers and Brady Christensen are going to be at the Seahawks this week.
Dolphins and Chargers, Kyle Van Noy and Michael Davis back in action for Los Angeles.
Yeah, hey, and Taysom Hill and the Saints have a bye.
How about that catch last night?
Danny Sorensen, the long one.
Yeah.
Danny Sorensen also with the Saints, we should note. So,
the Falcons also off. Tyler Algier. I got a text from Tyler today. He's doing great.
Great.
And has some time to rest his body. And Dax Milne, the Commanders, are off this week. In fact, Dax is playing that night game now on the 18th.
That's right, the one that caused the flex of the
So
of the
thanks
bowl,
to Dax, the Cougars are playing in prime time on
which
Saturday.
I like on ABC
17th.
instead of ESPN. So
all right, in our final minute together, December 6th. I can't believe it's December 6th.
Yeah.
December 6th in history.
So we'll start with 1865. The 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is ratified, abolishing slavery. How about that?
On this day, 1865.
Yep.
How about 1876? The first crematorium in the U.S. begins operations in Washington and Pennsylvania. Like who came up with that idea? I've got a business, and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And today, all those years ago, they were open for business.
How about a year later, 1877, the Washington Post published its first edition. The Washington Post.
1947, the Everglades National Park, dedicated by President Truman.
Have you ever gone on one of those fan boats in the Everglades?
No, but we remember we did in New Orleans.
Yeah, we did in New Orleans. It was pretty cool.
That was awesome.
So, 1960, Major League Baseball grants Gene Autry a baseball franchise called the Los Angeles Angels.
How about that?
Yep.
1964, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer debuts on television.
Yeah, and wasn't Burl Ives the host?
I think he's in there. Yeah, he's like the host with the most.
He's the snowman guy.
That's such a great show.
Yep. Oh, I love it. 1992, Jerry Rice catches his NFL record 101st career touchdown against Miami at Candlestick Park.
Was Steve Young throwing it to him by then?
92 probably was Steve, wasn't it?
So 101 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was Steve by then.
That's awesome.
So
one notable death in 343 A.D., Saint Nicholas, the Greek bishop who became the model for Santa Claus, died on this day,
AD?
343
December
A.D.
6th. Wow. All right.
So we have Rudolph and we have St. Nicholas here in December. We also have Caleb Chapman ready to sing Rise and Shout,
Well,
set the tone for the holidays. Oh, yeah, perform it with the
Yeah, he's going
saxophone.
to play it on the saxophone.
And that's going to set the tone. So the next 25 seconds are 25 seconds of bliss. DJ, you ready?
He's got this. Caleb Chapman, Rise and Shout.
Looking over at him, I'm not sure he does have this.
Well, and it's because BYU's coming off of a win, and they're gonna.
He just gave us the finger, but it was this
and
finger.
it gives
Said, hang
them-
on just one sec.
and it gives them the momentum to go win a bowl. And does this help
right now
the
he's
does this help the
scrambling.
basketball team tomorrow night when the two Marks face off, Mark Pope and Mark Madsen?
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Are we ready over there? DJ? Oh, he's okay. We're kind of we could play it next week.
He had to find it.
Seems like he could find that. So while we're waiting for that, 9:00 Eastern tomorrow night, 7 Mountain Time, BYU Utah Valley on BYU
Wait
TV.
a minute. Did we not give away the last set of tickets?
I don't think we did.
Everybody's getting ready for us to leave.
Let's do that right now. So on Twitch and YouTube, wiseguys.com.
Yeah, anybody that tells us tickets, please.
Tickets, please.
Anybody that joins the chat and says tickets, please. We got 2 more tickets.
That can get to the game in Vegas Saturday night. BYU and Creighton at Mandalay Bay. Do that, and then our guys will hook you up with the information you need. There's just 2 free tickets, lower bowl, waiting for you. So let us know. Just say tickets, please.
And I want to comment. Mike Z, just me, commented. I wish that young men would learn to quit being the now generation. They remind me of the blueberry girl from Willy Wonka. I want it now, Daddy. I want it now.
What was her name?
I want the world. I want the whole world.
What was her name in that show?
Baruch Salt.
That sounds right. By the way, the game's not sold out.
Am I right?
We're
Is it
just trying to
Baruch
sell
Salt?
it. I think it is Baruch Salt.
Yeah. The snozberries taste like schnozberries. I want a Oompa Loompa
DJ,
father.
promise me you have that ready. Would you just play that?
Otherwise, I'm
for
going to do
the
all
wheels
the lines
come
from
off.
Willy Wonka.
We're going to do the whole movie here.
My favorite line: you should never ever doubt what nobody's really sure about. So
here's Caleb Chapman. Great. Thank you. The great Caleb Chapman. Thanks to Glenn Kozlowski, Ernie Kuiper, and Michael Rucker for being with us tonight on the Wise Guys. Next week, Heisman Trophy winner Ty Detmer, BYU radio basketball analyst Mark Durant will be here. Lots to talk about, and we've got hoops tomorrow.
Yep, we got it tomorrow. And, hey, from Willy Wonka, remember what happened to the little boy that suddenly had everything he'd always wanted?
What?
He lived happily ever after, of course.
For Blaine Fowler, I'm Dave McCann. Thanks for watching the Wise Guys. Podcast will be up tomorrow. Tell your friends as we gather the largest collection of BYU fans around the world for this show each week, and look for our email as well. And let's go to a ball game tomorrow night.
Let's do it.
See you guys.